Hello once again, this is Tim Durling. Welcome back to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Having a really good time doing these shows, and I hope you're enjoying watching them. The fact that you continue to click on them is enough to tell me that they're not so bad. If this is your first time checking out this show, first of all, thank you. And if you're into classic rock and you're into vinyl, this might be the show for you. I take the vinyl that I myself have in my collection by a particular classic rock artist and go through them with you. And today I'm going to do another great Canadian band started in the mid-70s, Triumph. Now their records, albums have come out on different labels over the years. Gets a little complicated, especially between their second and third albums. I'll try to explain it in as few words as possible, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Tim's Vinyl Confessions on Triumph. Start with the first Triumph album. Came out in 1976 on Attic Records, which is a fairly well-known independent Canadian record label. That's not what you'd call a great cover. It really isn't. And the fact that when this was reissued on CD with a different title called In the Beginning, they used a totally different cover. Normally I don't like bands messing around with their cover artwork, but in this case I guess I kind of understand it. I've always wondered if the flame here wasn't meant to be shaped like the map of Canada, but I'm not sure about that. So look at the back cover. And you have song titles there. This is an early Triumph logo, which I really think is kind of neat in its simplicity. Nice shot of Gilmore on an old telephone there. Some thank yous. Inside of this album is, in my copy anyway, just a plain white sleeve, nothing special here. This is the original Triumph logo, or Attic Records logo. This sort of orangish color. And that's the first Triumph album. Now here's where it gets interesting. It gets interesting right away. 1977. Second Triumph album. Show you the cover here. This has also kind of become the unofficial nickname of Triumph. Rock and Roll Machine. They're often referred to as Canada's Rock and Roll Machine. This is the first of 3 records I'm going to show you with the title Rock and Roll Machine. So see if I can explain this in a way that doesn't lose you as viewers or doesn't get it wrong. So this came out in 1977 on Attic Records. So far we've got 2 albums in, and they were, as far as I know, only released in Canada, only released on Attic Records. So here we have, they haven't gotten their logo yet, sort of like this drawing of the 3 band members, futuristic looking, I don't know, circuits. I kind of like it. It's primitive looking, but I do like it. Here's the back cover. This back cover will be used a number of times actually. Blow up picture of Rick Emmett, and then all 3 of the band members there. Song titles and credits. And now I've seen at least 2 different copies of this. Both of the ones I have other releases available that were on Attic Records. I don't think this is an original one because the original one has ones from the time period of 77. This one has very 80s albums like from bands like Anvil and Riot and Judas Priest and Budgie and Lee Aaron. So, but that's, either way, I don't think there was a lyric sleeve for the Triumph record. It's the Rock and Roll Machine record as it was on Attic Records. So okay, up till now the albums only came out in Canada. Around this time Triumph signed worldwide recording contract with RCA Records in the US. In Canada they remained on Attic Records, but in the US RCA released an album called Rock and Roll Machine under this title. You may or may not have seen, if you're just bought the albums in Canada, you may have never seen this before. But this is the RCA Records 1978 version of the album Rock and Roll Machine. That's the title there, logo, and the band in their, really their natural environment on stage. and RCA logo down here on the bottom. Now as I show you around here, that's the same back cover that Attic Records used for their Rock and Roll Machine album. The song titles on here are slightly different. What this is a compilation of the first two Triumph albums. RCA Records took what they considered to be the best songs off the first two Triumph albums and released them as one album. If you're a fan of AC/DC, this is what Atlantic Records did when they put out the album called High Voltage internationally, which is actually a compilation of songs from the first two AC/DC albums. One was called High Voltage, one was called TNT. Some of the same songs, some aren't. Now what this means is that there were some songs that kind of went into limbo for a good many years until the CDs were finally remastered in the mid-90s, the other songs that weren't used. I don't know if a lyric sleeve came with this originally, but the one I have just has a plain white sleeve. And RCA Records, of course, the home of Elvis, not really a hard rock label, so it looks funny to me to see the RCA logo with the dog in the speakerphone logo with Triumph written on here. And interestingly enough, this actually says 1976, 1977 Attic Records. So they basically licensed this music from Attic Records. That's what it looks like here. This vinyl is actually in really good shape. I've got one more Rock and Roll Machine record to show you here. Sometime in the early 80s, MCA Records bought out Triumph's entire catalog and reissued everything once again. And they kept the same track listing on Rock and Roll Machine that RCA used, but for whatever reason, they gave it a different cover. They gave it this cover. Kind of similar to the Allied Forces album, but a little bit different. You get like a flying V guitar with a sword and very, very rocking looking logo in a cool 80s way. So it doesn't really look like it's a record that came out in '78. The music did, kind of, but the album itself didn't. So, on the back, again, it's different. Same credits as the RCA version, but different layout. And this one actually says, this recording is a compilation from the previously released albums Triumph and Rock and Roll Machine, which confused me when I was young getting into the band in the mid to late 80s, because all I could find, as far as I knew, this was the first Triumph album and that was it. So see a lot of these, the MCA Records rainbow logo, they use that a lot. So here's the Triumph Rock and Roll Machine MCA version. That's all the Rock and Roll Machine albums I'm going to show you, but we're moving on with Triumph. Their next album, whether you want to call it the third or fourth, either way, it's the next album. It came out in 1979. It was actually their first big album, Just a Game. The reason I do this show, the reason I love vinyl is things like this. This album has there's so much to look for in the artwork here. It's like a bird carrying what I presume to be the band members. There used to be three figures here. There's chess pieces, there's dice, there's a checkerboard or a chessboard, clouds. It's just all very cool. And this is a gatefold, which means it goes like this. So it folds around, and you've got the back cover. There's a club, there's a music note. I think that's a cash register. There's your song titles. This is the Canadian version, so it's on Attic Records. Inside of here, it gets better, and there's more. So here we have the band on stage, pictures of the band members, song titles, credits. Here's an actual playable board game, because it's just a game. And this is basically rules, none. A single die, any number of players, usually too many players and too few winners. Follow your destiny to stardom. This is what it says. And the idea is that you're a band, and this is the various things that may or may not happen to you on the road to success. I guess it's kind of like chutes and ladders. You can get all the way to the top, or one wrong move can send you all the way down, because it's just a game. I like it. I'm laughing, but I do think it's neat. Plain white sleeve in the copy that I have, and the vinyl itself is the Attic Records logo that I've become familiar with now. Now we head into the 80s. 1980s album from Triumph. Pretty much released a steady one album a year for a long time. Progressions of Power. And that's the logo that they're mostly known for at this point. Band members, beams of light. This is the Canadian Attic Records version again. Song titles. And this is, it's not a gatefold like Just a Game, but there is an inner sleeve with some things on it. It's the band members again. Logo. Credits. And lyrics. Still the Attic Records logo here. If I wanted to buy all the versions of these albums, I'd be a long time, because I'd have to get all the RCA Records versions from the US and all the MCA Records versions of Canada and wherever else. And I'm just interested, as long as I've got unique copies of them. For instance, the Rock and Roll Machine albums, that's good enough for me. This is the most successful Triumph album worldwide, 1981, Allied Forces. I just love that cover. It's got the same flying V with a sword that is on the reissue of Rock and Roll Machine. That cover, band members standing in front of this big rock structure with a crack in it. Rick Emmett with the Montreal Canadiens jersey on. This is the Canadian Attic Records version. There's your song titles. A little glossier too. Glossier finish. There's the song titles, or song lyrics. Credits down at the bottom here. Pictures of the band on stage. It's still the Attic label, but it does have the Triumph Allied Forces from the front cover on the record itself now. So it's changed a little bit. It's a little bit more unique. Next album, 1983, Never Surrender. This is where the record label changes started to happen. I don't have the original RCA or Attic version of this. This is an MCA Records version, so it's a reissue. It's actually down here in the bottom, this yellow. This is a Columbia House issue. Song titles, logo again. There's some pictures of the band here. Credits. And the lyrics to the songs. Another MCA record with the rainbow logo on it. Very rarely are the labels different on both sides, but you do see some that are. That's why I like to do both. First Triumph album I ever owned, and still my favorite. 1984, Thunder 7. I love this album cover. It's based on, people are going to shoot me if I don't know this, I think it's a Da Vinci painting. And this has got a little chip in it. I bought this one for about $2 used, because at the time I didn't have CDs and I wanted this cover big, not just the cassette version of it. Theme is continued onto the back cover. There's the song titles. And this is the first Triumph album to come out on MCA as a new album. This is an American version of this. There's the lyrics, credits, once again we have the MCA rainbow logo. By this time, it was probably time to do a live album, and 1985 saw the release of Stages. Double live album. It says so right here, double live album. On the back cover, picture of the band, song titles, credits, I like the fold out inside here a lot. Various pictures of the band on stage, various press clippings. There's Billboard rock charts here. There's charts saying how they're doing on tour. Pictures of magazines like Smash Hits, Guitar Players, Circus. Yeah, just a lot of little things to look at. And there's funny little captions under each of these pictures. Now here it shows Triumph's back catalog, starting with their MCA reissue of Rock and Roll Machine. They don't want you to know about those other two. And inside each of these, just a single plastic sleeve with the MCA rainbow logo. Same thing with the other one. Now, what's unique about the vinyl record version of Stages is that the songs A World of Fantasy, this did not appear on the cassette or the CD of Stages, and the drum solo, which is called Drummer's Elbow or Drummer's Elbow, that appeared on the cassette but didn't appear on the CD. So to get all those tracks, you have to get the vinyl. 1986, Triumph released The Sport of Kings. It's a horse racing track here. On the back cover, sort of a silhouette, not a silhouette, but it's a faded photo of the band. Song titles. This is a Canadian version. Obviously it's on MCA. Pictures of the band. Back cover. Lyrics and credits. Of course, the MCA rainbow logo again. (1987) the next Triumph album. To this date, it's the last Triumph studio album to feature the original lineup. This is kind of looks like Never Surrender, but this is Surveillance. Surveillance is written along the bottom here. I like that logo a lot. Back cover. Not much going on here. This is a US version of Surveillance. A little ring wear along here. Anytime the ring wear shows up if something's completely black or if it's a lighter color, or the record is pressed against the record sleeve. Here are the lyrics and credits. And there's that helmet figure thing again, whatever it is. This is vinyl's in really, really good shape. So that's that. There's that side. Now one last piece of vinyl I'm going to show you. Came out in 1989 on MCA Records. It is predictably best of, and it's called Triumph Classics. It says Classics along the top. On the back, very not much to talk about. The song titles says what album they come from. Side 1, side 2, and purple here. This is a Canadian version, and this is a used copy, so I don't know if there was anything else in it, but it has the MCA rainbow logo like so many of their albums did. Triumph are a great band. If you like, they were hard rock. They could be melodic, they could be progressive. They had two completely different lead singers. And if you've never heard them, I would definitely YouTube some of their music. If you want to check them out online, their website is triumphmusic.com. So thank you for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions, talking about Triumph. Check me out on YouTube under Tim's Vinyl Confessions for more episodes. And I look forward to sharing some more vinyl with you. Have a great day.